Learning, the very often used terminology in the educational psychology, is referred as the behavioral changes experienced by an individual that are relatively permanent in the nature. Learning is any process that in living organisms leads to permanent capacity change and which is not solely due to biological maturation of aging. In the present day, learning is considered as the most dynamic system by the educators and researchers. According to the educational psychologist, this learning may happen through the different modes. Direct exposure to stimuli, second one mediated learning experience. Direct exposure to stimuli. Under the direct exposure to stimuli, the individual learns through the senses such as visual, auditory and tactual. Based on the type of stimuli received through the sensory channels, the individual is expected to give response as an outcome. Characteristics of this learning model is as random learning is limited to the here and now. Goal, learning the content of the stimuli is present in the learning environment. Focus, learning is focused on the content and the outcome, that is response. Limitations, factors such as attention span, number of times the stimulus appears, cognitive or environmental interference, previous experience influence the learning through direct exposure to stimuli. Mediated learning experience. In this type of learning, the major role is played by the human mediator, maybe because of the inability or limitations of the individual to receive the stimuli directly from the senses. Characteristics of mediated learning experience are not random. Exposure to stimulus chosen according to the goal and the mediator's intention. When, where, how, often, in which order. Goal, the content to be learnt is chosen by the child or the human mediator. The stimulus meaning is explained by the mediator. Focus, learning is focused on new experience and relates to earlier and future events. Limitations, factors such as sensory loss, impairment, lack of motivation, availability of the external resources affect the mediated learning experience. In such type of learning, stimuli is exposed to the individual as an input phase. During the elaboration phase, the human mediator tries to grab the child's attention and regulates child's behavior to avoid impulsive behavior or overstimulation. Response is elicited from the child in the output phase as an outcome of the intervention or training provided by the mediator. Then appropriate and immediate feedback is given by the mediator to facilitate the generality of applications, thereby to enhance child's feeling of competence and accomplishment. Mediated learning experience refers to the process in which stimuli experienced in the environment are transformed by the mediating agent, like the parent, the teacher, sibling, peer or any other intended person in the life of the individual. Mediated learning experience, that is MLE, occurs when children are guided to learn how to learn, that is metacognition, by someone who is more knowledgeable. According to educationists, this kind of mediated teaching strategy is similar to differentiated instruction that has been used to train individuals with special needs. It is based on Vygotsky theory of the zone of proximal development. The key features of mediated learning experience are: mediated learning experience is similar to coaching. The goal of mediated learning experience is to guide an individual to be a more skilled and independent learner. Mediated learning experience occurs when a more skilled person, that is teacher, peer, parent, grandparent, helps a child to acquire some skill or behavior that is difficult for him to do independently. The mediator facilitates the child to discover his own strategy for learning. In this learning, the child is not informed about what strategy has to be used to learn a particular skill or behavior. Mediated learning experience is what occurs in a child's learning zone. Most of what children learn is acquired almost automatically or instantaneously, that is, incidentally, as they observe other children and adults interact with the environment and model their actions and behaviors. Incidental learning happens when one is directly exposed to stimuli, and thus learning is gained majorly by observing others in the surroundings. Vision is crucial for receiving any type of information. The absence or reduction of vision considerably limits the concept formation as well as the understanding of the outside world. No other sense can stimulate curiosity, combine information, or invite exploration in the same way or as efficiently and fully as vision. According to Lowenfeld in the year 1975, blindness imposes three limitations on the individual. They are as reduction in the range and variety of experiences, reduction in the ability to move about, lack of control over environment and self in relation to it. According to him, the visually impaired individual gets reduced experience when compared with sighted persons. They also have difficulty to move around, which is necessary to explore the external world for the purpose of learning. Lack of control over environment is another problem that has an adverse effect on the psychosocial development of the individual. Vision is the primary sense upon most traditional education strategies are formed. There is a dire need to adapt these strategies based on the child's visual, auditory and tactile vision capabilities. A child with a severe visual loss can directly experience only what is within arm's reach and can be safely touched and in most cases what can be heard. But in the case of person with low vision, the strategies need to be modified according to the efficiency of the residual vision. It is important to remember that education goals for students with visual impairments are essentially the same as those for all students. The goals are effective communication, social competence, employability and personal independence. In order to accomplish these goals, however, students with visual impairment require specific interventions and modifications of their educational programs. An appropriate assessment of these unique educational needs in all areas related to the disability and instruction adapted to meet these needs is essential to ensure appropriate educational programming. Students with visual impairment can and do succeed, but at different paces and sequences. It is important to provide significant intervention by a trained expert or by the team to ensure appropriate holistic development of the visually impaired child. The distinctive educational needs of a child with visual impairment are vision loss may result in delayed and poor concept development, which without effective intervention severely affects the child's social, emotional, academic and vocational development. Such children must learn to learn through alternate modalities using their other senses. They need individualized instruction, as group instruction for learning specialized skills may not be provided in an appropriate manner. They often require specific skills and braille or large print materials and equipment for learning through alternate modes. They have limitations in receiving information through incidental learning, as they are often not aware of subtle activities they are happening in their immediate environment. Curriculum areas that require unique strategies or adaptations for students with visual impairment include concept development, academic functioning, communication skills, sensory or motor skills, social or emotional skills, orientation and mobility, daily living skills, career and vocational skills, use of assistive technological devices and utilization of low vision. Students with visual impairment have the same curriculum needs as all children, but their visual impairment itself often imposes restrictions on their ability to access curriculum when presented in the typical method of learning and teaching by the classroom teacher. Students with visual impairment must be taught the necessary skills to obtain access to information, particularly in the high stakes environment of a standards based curriculum, because limited vision can have a strong impact on the visually impaired child's ability to understand concepts, learn language, move about freely with confidence, and develop and grow in a variety of ways. The teachers need to use alternate methods and strategies for teaching the children basic concepts and the meanings of words now, and how to read, write, interact socially and perform various daily activities as they grow. Infants, children and youth with visual impairment receive special education and related services in a variety of settings that bring them into contact with a range of personnel. A critical member of this team of professionals is the teacher of students with visual impairment, whose specialized training and experience establish him or her as the individual best qualified to address the unique learning needs created by a visually impairment. Access requirements of individuals with visual impairment may vary widely, is different from individual to individual. The nature and the extent of assistance required will differ according to the degree and type of their vision loss. They may not be able to rely on their sight to obtain information and may therefore need to use senses other than vision to acquire information. They may usually need particular kinds of attention and extra experiences from infancy on to learn skills that sighted children develop as a matter of course by watching people and objects around them and imitating what they see. They may require clear explanations as well as repetitions in order to understand a concept. Direct experiences set up would help them to learn what sighted children learn by looking. Students who are visually impaired are most likely to succeed in educational systems where appropriate instruction and services provided in a full array of program options by qualified staff to address each student's unique educational needs. The more substantial and specific needs associated with visual impairment must also be addressed in educating students who are visually impaired and have one or more additional disabilities, including specialized health care needs. The education of students with multiple disabilities or other special needs must involve a team approach, combining the expertise of specialists in order to successfully deal with the unique and complex needs of these students. Therefore, to achieve quality education for students with multiple disabilities or other special needs, services must be provided using a team approach, including members with disability specific expertise in educating children with visual impairment. The unique educational needs of all students with visual impairment cannot be met in a single environment, may it be school or home. It is crucial that a team approach be used in identifying and meeting these needs, and the team must include staff who have specific expertise in educating students with visual impairment. To ensure an appropriate education, families and staff with special training must work together to bring the world of experiences to the child in a meaningful manner. Reciprocity. This is the establishment of a responsive connection between the child and the mediator, a more skilled person. This requires that the child and the mediator share their cultures by integrating their values, ideas, feelings, and expectations. It includes the mutual setting of expectations, that is, rules and routines. Reciprocity is necessary before the remaining three aspects of mediated learning experience can occur. Essentially, reciprocity allows the mediator and the child to form a working relationship based on trust, acceptance, and understanding. The forming of this attachment creates an openness to learning, and the child is more likely to turn his or her internal compass point to the mediator. Some examples of developing reciprocity are emphasizing order and patterns to assist children to discover relationships between events and tasks, establishing routines to set a safe and predictable learning environment, sharing an understanding of the purpose of learning, modeling acceptance, trust, and empathy, attending to the changing needs of students. Intent. This is the explicit direction or goal that evolves between the mediator and the child. The mediator prepares intent ahead of time and determines how to catch and hold the learner's attention. The intent may change according to the needs of the child. The child needs to share in the definition and ownership of the intent. Some examples of developing intent are catching and sharing focused attention, clearly describing what is going to happen, considering the child's needs and view to negotiate an activity goal, modeling commitment to the intent through body language, tone, and attitude, creating excitement about the learning task. Meaning. This is the personal relevance of the learning experience. The mediator ensures that the children share in developing meaning, that is interest, importance, and usefulness about the activities. Some examples of developing meaning are sharing personal interest, importance, and joy in learning activities, sharing beliefs, values, likes, dislikes, and view of the world, and ensuring that the mediator listens to the child's views, exploring the children's perceptions and assumptions about learning activities, adjusting the difficulty of activities to match the children's needs and interests, ensuring that a new learning activity is connected to some aspect of the child's worldview and experience, encouraging children to continue and complete activities, noticing or looking for the children's accomplishments, specifically praising and explaining why they deserve this praise. Transcendence. This is the expansion of understanding beyond what children are learning in a specific activity. Through transcendence, children become active in making their own learning strategies. The emphasis is on the process of how to learn and less on the product of learning. Transcendence is a form of bridging or transferring knowledge and strategies from one situation to another. Some examples of developing transcendence are questioning children about how and why they will do things, that is, focus on the process of learning. Expecting children to explain their reasons for choices and plans. Helping children to go beyond what they are doing now by comparing, relating, and expanding to other times and events, that is, bridging. This helps children to anticipate and search for rules that they can use in many different ways. Modeling problem solving. It is focused on the experiences what happen in the day-to-day life of children. Children are engaged in active learning process with a hands-on approach. This type of learning provides sufficient time to complete tasks. It allows time for exploration. Children are engaged in sequential activities. The activities are used as a base for expanding vocabulary. Visually impaired children learn by exploring and manipulating the objects in their environment and by comparing new objects to familiar ones. They need as many as possible with real objects and textures, hands-on experiences with a variety of objects made out of as many different materials are possible, allow students to work on a variety of skills and learn about their environment. Concrete experiences with real objects also facilitate concept development. It is important to give students ways to actively impact their environment and teach them to be active participants in their world instead of passive recipients of stimulation from adults. It is the best method to teach children with visual impairment through mediated teaching strategies, which helps them to have a long lasting learning and lays basic foundation for future learning.